Hello everyone, welcome back to the Roottrees Are Dead. We have added quite a few things, to our possible infidelity chart, including locking in Elias Roottree over here. There was a second where I was like, was it him? Was it not? But I was actually confusing him for someone else. We also need to break through Clementine's pathway because I know he divorced from his spouse, but I don't know her name. And I know he has two kids. I know one of them was in college, but again, don't know any other information about them. We have Christine Farrow's name, but not a picture of her or her most recent occupation. And not sure about either of these two people. I think that I put her here just based on the timeline, but honestly, she could be anywhere. But that is Clark in the same photo as her. So he's about college age right now. They're in high school. And we still need a picture for her. So just kind of based on that, I was like, okay, one of these is probably her because they look post-college age. Yes. Okay. So that was my reasoning for it. And this is done. We have the baby over here. So I'm going to go back into the evidence. This is the one that has the most amount of clues associated with it, but I have no idea how to break through this. So we need, I know this is under Guy Hudson. Let's see if we can find anything related to this. I don't think so. I think I probably filed it under something else. So this was the source. Cicely Sanchez is an author best known for Portrait of a Changed Man, released in 1979. Neither of these have anything to do with Hudson or the Roottrees. And I think I've already looked these up. What was her name again? Cicely Sanchez. Nope, wrong thing. Portrait of a Changed Man. Okay, we just have that this is out of print. I wonder if maybe... Okay, Newstime briefly covered a lawsuit between Ruby Spratt and Picotee magazine surrounding Cicely Sanchez. They said Cicely didn't have the rights to redistribute the photos in the magazine of Guy Hudson. Picotee apparently announced that they would be pulling their issue the following day, the moment that Ruby Legal Enterprises threatened them. This caused the issue to sell faster than any other in the magazine's history, though only for a day. Even people that would never have normally purchased it went out of their way to buy one just in case. Would be worth something someday. It especially caught the eye of conspiracy theorists who assumed that anything worth suing over would have to be hiding something. Oh, okay. Who were the conspiracy theorists back in the day? I wonder if I could just find it by searching Clark's email again. Okay, it had something to do with Ernie. Oh man, I really wish that I remembered what that website was, because there was like that conspiracy theorist website that Chris left a comment on, and that's kind of how we found him. Maybe if I just search Roottree conspiracy, I'll find it. Okay. During your initial search, you came across Thomas Overwood's conspiracy page about the Roottrees. 8 months later, the page still exists and is thriving. The visitor count has reached 7 digits. Many older articles have been replaced. It seems that the recent uprising in Roottree news has left Thomas Overwood with a constant stream of events to base new theories on. More than one of his theories involve Roottree deaths being faked. According to Overwood, statistically, when you have this many high-profile people who have died in a family, the odds are that one of them faked their death. It's just math. This newfound focus on death faking seems to coincide with a post mentioning that he's begun believing the guy's not dead theory. In his own words, "My eyes have been opened. All of this is beginning to make too much sense." One of his posts details the belief that Ron Roottrie is still in charge, Gwen Roottree's death was faked, and that Clark is only there to throw people off. Apparently, this allowed Ron to travel to France to develop their new candy recipe in secret. Another is about the rapper 5 Piece. He can't possibly be a Roottree. One of his first album songs, when he was performing under the Devil name, actually mentioned that he wanted to have sex with Raina. Not even Sam Madsen is spared. According to Overwood, the author of 6 Pieces isn't real. Sam Madsen is an anagram for M Madness. They're purposefully leaving hints for us. He claims that by using 6 Pieces with Lauren Roottree's book as a one-time pad, he has begun to decrypt a cipher. Most of the cipher has seemed vastless, but he managed to pick out the words people and vastness and is working on figuring out what it means. There's also a request at the bottom. Next year, 2000, is a leap year, and Overwood is looking for funds and volunteers to catch the Roottrees red-handed in Operation RT-29. He specifically mentions to volunteer if you've ever drunk Spirit Cola, but doesn't go into why. Okay, so this goes to one of the older pages about changing the candy recipe. Okay. What is Spirit Cola? It's just a drink. Okay. We got something. The Guy's Not Dead conspiracy stems from a website that focuses on clues that the Roottrees have supposedly hid all over the place. This includes on candy wrappers, in print advertisements, in television commercials, in their jingles, etc. The story, according to the website, is that Guy Hudson was a terrible president of the Roottrie Company and introduced multiple failed products. Something needed to be done that would put the company immediately and instantly back in the favor of consumers, so they killed off Guy Hudson and replaced him with a new president. This move immediately garnered sympathy, and the company recovered the next year, more popular than ever. The next president stayed much further out of the limelight, and some people even theorized that he was simply Guy Hudson in an elaborate disguise, which is why he stopped appearing in public. The people who run the site are asking for help. They are certain that there's a clue to all of this that accidentally leaked in a banned article from the magazine Piketty. On their page is a scan of the magazine's cover, the interview with Cicely Sanchez about Guy Hudson, and some photos. You added them to your evidence. Okay, so let's go back to Guy Hudson. Ex-president. Okay, so this is the theory, and I just want to be able to get this webpage hyperlinked. All right. So, okay, that reduced the number from this one pretty significantly. So this is Zach, I believe. Yeah, that added a picture here. So that's you for sure. This is Guy Hudson. And this is some unknown woman with very blonde hair. The photo is the first in the magazine interview with Cicely Sanchez and Piketty. The issue of Piketty magazine that it came from was pulled from the shelves, but you managed to find it online. Piketty does not label its individual photos. Both photos were instead under the shared label. Cicely was provided these photos by the Roottrees company for use in her book. Okay. She looks pretty blonde. And we don't have... I don't think it's their mother either. It could be one of these two. Let's take a look at the other picture. Oh, that looks like the woman in the other picture. Okay, we can't click on that. She looks like she could be the the mother of the chefs. This is a Christmas party, so we can actually... Okay, before I even... I'm going in so many directions. Okay, focus. This photo is the first from a magazine interview with Cicely Sanchez and Piketty. The issue of Piketty magazine that it came from was pulled from the shelves, but you managed to find it online. Piketty does not label its individual photos. Both photos were instead under the shared label. Cicely was provided these photos by the Roottrees company for use in her book. In the background of the photo, there's a Christmas tree. Okay, so what I was gonna say is that surely there was a party, a Christmas party. Christmas tree bash. Was there also one the next year? There are 2 Christmas tree bashes. So in this one, we have Catherine Garrett, Lisa Lewis, Valerie... Oh, no, they're gone. So Linda Lewis, Angela Ingram, Catherine Garrett. But in this one, we have Beatrice Watts, Kern Schwartz, Juliet McClellan, Doris Mays are gone, and these 2 are hired. Oh, and then from Farm and Manufacturing, we have Elizabeth... Oh, wait, no, they're no longer employed. But Susan Ford is. So this could be Susan Ford. Or one of them could be Susan Ford anyway. I think... I'm going to say maybe that is her. Maybe. And it could also be her. I don't know. What was Hughes doing again? He was the person she studied sign language for. So I don't imagine that was related. And she looks like she's very formally dressed. So maybe these 2 photos are of her. And I'm guessing this could be her. With Steve Garland, who I think was also... We don't have a picture for him. Okay, wait. We can add you, but who is this? Okay, where are pictures? See, there's 2 photos here. So that does make me wonder if this could be these 2 together at the Christmas party. But if this is Susan, which I think it could be, just because she's more formal, and I mean, these are her kids. They do look like they could potentially be related to each other. Okay, and I haven't actually even read the article yet, so it's probably going to be helpful. Okay, so this is an interview with Cicely Sanchez, an author. She was hired to write a book about Guy Hudson. You claim to have been paid a significant amount to write a book about one of the Roottrees, Guy Hudson. He was president for a short period at the end of the 1970s, right? Yeah. I met him on New Year's Eve, actually, the last night of 1978. Guy liked to throw big parties. I was just coming off of Changed Man and looking for my next project. When his wife learned who I was, she invited me to the party and they cornered me to talk about a book. That was the first time anyone recognized me from my work. I had finally made it. The book they asked me to write sounded great, but then none of the stuff that made him interesting was allowed to stay. Stuff that made him interesting. Chop, chop, snip, snip. Anything with even the slightest threat to Guy's image ended up a gonzo. What was the stuff that made him interesting? At his core, Guy was not complicated. In fact, I think I could boil him down to 2 traits. First, he wanted to be seen as the second coming of the great Elias Roottree. And second, he'd never be satisfied living the life needed to be seen that way. He had his fortune and good looks, and he really liked to exploit that to pick up women. But he couldn't let anyone else know, so it cost him a lot to cover it up. That was the only interesting aspect of Guy. He was James Bond trying to convince people he was Mr. Rogers, I guess. Okay. Mr. Rogers? Really? Maybe that's not the best metaphor. But Elias Roottree was boring as all hell and all about family. Guy did everything he could to be seen that way. After I submitted my first draft, he sent me this garbage book, The Roottrees Legacy, with Elias on the cover. The last time he and I met, he had even switched out his orange suits for the same green ones Elias wore. Don't remember if we've looked at that already. And remember fancy flavors? Guy knew that part of Elias's legacy was the 5-piece flavors, so that's what Guy tried to do too. Caviar was a disaster here, but it was actually somewhat popular in Brazil for whatever reason. At Christmas 1979, he went to Brazil to open the Roottree Brazil factory. Guy was always hopping around the world trying to recreate that success. Actually, and I want to add that was in 1979. So, how come the book never came out? It's complicated. I had an out in my contract. Surprisingly, Guy signed the contract my lawyers wrote without running it by anybody in his legal department. I could pull my name off the book at any time, but Guy still had got the content. After I left, it probably got a lot harder to convince any real publisher to give it their time. He was the president, right? Do you know why he never released it himself? If I had to guess, his family very wisely put a stop to it. Mid-1981, months after I had already moved on, he called me back and showed me a final draft. Do you know how expensive it is to publish one copy of a book? It had my names on it in big, shiny, embossed letters. Like all problems in his life, throwing money at me was his attempt to win me back. Okay, hold on. I'm going to highlight this real quick. But it had half the page count, and the narrative was torn to bits. No thanks. The dinner was good, imported steak that likely cost as much as a month of my mortgage, and we all got pretty drunk. He sent his mistress, Susie, something into the bathroom to proposition me. Poor girl. I remembered her from our trips overseas. She was too good for him. Anyways, he died soon after, and that was the last it ever came up. What can you tell us about the family? Any insight into the scandals from the recent book by Sam Madsen? I actually haven't read it. I just skimmed the sections on Guy to see why people were suddenly calling me up to ask about that man. I'd say she did well for what she had to work with. She only had rumors, whereas I spent time tailing him. Sometimes he knew, sometimes he didn't. He invited me to join them when dealing with Roottrees Brazil, but I actually had people on him when he went to Australia, France, and China too. When he met someone, I'd figured out who they were and how they were involved. Doubly so if the meeting happened when he didn't want me to be around. Despite the best efforts, I got the whole truth, including things even his family never knew. For example, the daughter of his business partner in Australia, I think her name was Robin, he and she definitely spent a few nights together that he didn't want his family to know about, but I did. Madsen got things wrong. Sam mentions Guy's affairs and treats them like most people would logically think to treat them, like the infidelity was a problem for Patricia. When his wife first approached me, though, it wasn't to talk, if you get my meaning. On paper and in public, it was a marriage like any other, but in reality, it was more of a mutually beneficial arrangement. They both got what they wanted out of it, the same thing. What was that? I'm assuming I only have to spell it out so you can get it in writing for your readers. Women. Patricia enjoyed the company of women, and the swinger scene made that more accessible. I told her I wasn't interested in her and Guy. I found out later that if I had said yes, her next question would have been whether or not her husband actually had to be there too. Guy, on the other hand, was seen in a traditional marriage, and at the same time could bed any women that found him charming. I can assure you that was exactly the type of marriage he was interested in. You know, that almost makes it less bad, that at least it wasn't infidelity within the way that they seem to have defined their relationship. The main problem here is that the kids, well, first of all, that they were having, the infidelity surfaced because he was also sleeping with married women. That's a problem. Two, that they were women he was in a position of power over. That's a problem. And the fact that the kids who were product of all of these different affairs aren't being given the same right to inheritance as all the other more formal Roottrees, which per the terms of the company's Clancy Trust or whatever, they have a full entitlement to. So, I mean, yeah, he's still a piece of shit. There's only so much spin you can do with that. Okay, but where do we go from here? There was a lot of different things there. Let's go back. I'm going to try searching Thomas Overwood just to see if anything, does it just come to the same? Yeah, it's the same page. So don't need to worry about that. Let's try looking up Brazil Roottrees. Okay, Roottrees Brazil, sometimes erroneously referred to as Roottrees Brazil, is one of the companies created to manufacture and distribute Roottrees candy. It was developed as part of the Roottrees Everywhere initiative near the beginning in 1979. Unlike some of the other Roottrees Everywhere results, Roottrees Brazil seems to be a success. You do some rough translating and find a significant amount of information. Brazil was the only region in which caviar-flavored 5 pieces, released in the end of 1978, were a hit. The primary reason that the factory still exists to this day is solely to create that flavor, which comes in its own standalone 5-pieces bag with Portuguese writing. A small town named Alvalagos, near the municipality of São Bernardo do Campo, became the location chosen by the Roottrees Candy Company after a newly elected local politician named Edson Suarez heard that they were planning a new factory and petitioned them in early 1979. That feels important. The factory was controversial as locals did not want it there. The Roottrees visited Brazil around Christmas and managed to break ground on the project. Since then, however, it has been operating relatively smoothly, except for 2 incidents. The first was Incendio de Bordo in 1982, and the second was the unsuccessful strike in 1995 that involved all the factory workers being replaced. Yikes. The factory was originally built and run, according to paperwork at the time, by a small company named Nova Corporação de Doces Brasil, which literally translates to New Brazil Candy Corporation. This company no longer exists, not much information has ever existed about it, and the Roottrees now run Roottrees Brazil entirely. Okay. Let's look up this politician because there is that picture, and now I'm wondering if that couple in the Christmas photo are Brazilian and if he's the guy. Edson Suarez was a Brazilian politician. You find a dissertation published by a college student as part of their PhD in history. It focuses on the rise of democracy in Brazil. It seems up until 1988, Brazil was run by the military, and the politics during that time were often a hotbed for corruption and nepotism. The paper tells of a few politicians at the time, including Edson Suarez. Edson is a former mayor of Lagos, Brazil. Before politics, he was a manager at an automotive manufacturing plant for a major American car company. Interesting. He was put in charge of Lagos by the military government in 1973. As mayor, he used his manufacturing background and knowledge of American business to establish new factories, distribution plants, and other business ventures in the area. This had 2 side effects. First, he became quite rich. Second, many locals were forcibly relocated. This did not make him a popular mayor. In what the paper speculates was a move to counteract this unpopularity, his wife Sonia was discreetly put in charge of a television station called Teleread. He often used this connection to ensure supporters would appear on local television spouting his beliefs and emphasizing his political victories. He remained in office until 1988 when he was defeated in the first election after the military government was no longer in control. After this election loss, he quickly left the town behind. It is not known where he has gone, but the dissertation even speculates he likely fled to stay alive. Okay. I'm pretty confident that this is Edson Suarez. Edson. Oh, wait, hold on. Am I spelling it wrong? Okay, yeah, I am. I'm thinking of how to spell it in Mexican Spanish. Okay, and then her name was Sonia. Last name currently unknown. And what was her job? Discreetly put in charge of a television station. That doesn't tell us exactly what it was, but let's look up this thing. Teleread is a former television station in Brazil. It came into being in 1970 after a vacuum was created due to the removal of a different network at the hands of the Brazilian military dictatorship. Due to a lack of resources online, you don't have much to go on about who ran it and when. Okay. Let's look up the location. São Bernardo do Campo is a real place in Brazil. A game designer by the name of Jeremy Johnston looked up cities in Brazil that had a lot of manufacturing so that he could place a fictional factory there. He did not want to offend any Brazilians with the tale he was writing that involved corruption and politics, so the small town name he made up, Alvalagos, where the factory was located, was invented by mixing 2 other regions, Interlagos and Alvarenga. I think that's a fairly smart thing to do. Okay. Let's look up Sonia Suarez for now. This does not seem to be anyone relevant by the name of Sonia Suarez listed anywhere online you find. However, Spider Search does return a page that lists a news anchor in Brazil named Flavio Suarez, who has a mother named Sonia. Okay, so this is Flavio. Flavio Suarez is a young Brazilian newscaster with a bit of a cult following. The discourse surrounding him is, to put it in polite terms, lewd. There's a website about something called fanfiction that has a small section dedicated to him. It seems that women, and some men, of a wide variety of ages and writing skill tend to find him worthy of inclusion in their stories. You skim some of the tales there and learn that a common thread is that he's currently dating a supermodel named Ashley York. Many stories either seem to ignore her existence or get her out of the picture rather quickly. There are also other more traditional fan sites that list some things about him, including his age, 18. That makes the fanfiction thing so much worse. His zodiac sign, Libra. His favorite food, grilled steak. And his mother's name, Sonia. Also, it seems that Flavio translates to golden-haired. One website with a signed publicity photo of Flavio seems to confirm this. The photo has been added to your evidence. Okay. To Natasha, kisses from Brazil, Flavio. So he is a news anchor. That's him. And we don't know her last name. But I mean, she was also a news anchor, wasn't she? Ashley York is a British supermodel who does ads for perfume, clothing, and jewelry. She has been the subject of some controversy in the past few months, having been protested by PETA for wearing fur on the cover of some magazines. She's dating a young Brazilian news anchor named Flavio Suarez, which has brought them both somewhat into the limelight. Okay, so let's see if I can find Ashley on some news magazines. I'm like, what is the word? Ashley York, a British model, appeared on the cover of Teen Blast wearing a fur shawl 3 months ago. This appearance doesn't lead to any useful information, but another more recent appearance in text only mentions she's dating Flavio Suarez. In it, a Teen Blast reporter asks how they met. I was in Rio for Carnival, and he was on one of the parade floats. I had no idea who he was, but I liked what I saw and told my people to invite him to the party I was going to. I felt pretty stupid once I realized that we were going to his party. Well, his mother's party. She runs a media empire down there called Transmissão Paulo. I think that's how... Oh, wait, I could just spider search it. If I could just highlight you. Okay. Is a massive group. Aha, Alves. Maybe that's her maiden name. And then what would this be called? Like media mogul? Yeah. It seems Sonia Alves is a common name in Brazil, so she has shortened her name to Nia to stand out in the public's eye. According to a history page that's focused on her company and vague on searchable details, Nia received a significant inheritance in 1980 and invested in many different manufacturing businesses in her hometown in Brazil. At the same time, she had just begun to learn the ins and outs of running a television network. She continued to work in television until in 1988 when Brazil began its period of reform. She felt this was the perfect opportunity to launch her own media company using her investment and connections. Now her company owns television networks, magazines, newspapers, and advertising firms. After doing some translating, the page about Nia lists her as unmarried. It does not go into any other relationship history. Searching for Nia online, you learn that she stays out of the spotlight. She doesn't even appear at shareholder meetings. She sends a proxy. I still think this is the chain, though. Because who else would you be? Unless, I mean, they did describe him as having golden hair. But she just does not look like a Sonia Alves, you know? She, like, he has golden hair, but she has, like, blonde hair. I don't know. Let's see if we can look up Nia Alves with an S. Same article. Oops. Nenhum resultado relevante, which in Portuguese for no relevant results. It seems that Sonia Alves is a fairly common name in some parts of the world. Okay. But then why would his last name be Suarez, you know? Like, if his father wasn't a Suarez. So I'm not going to second guess that. I'm going to leave those there because I think that's correct. Okay, is there anything else I need to follow up with? I'm sure there is. There was so much information. Okay, let's try looking this up. Let's search the Roottrees Everywhere initiative. Roottrees Everywhere was an expansion in the late 70s. It coincided with some of the other large changes in the company and had mixed success. As far as you can tell, the different companies related to it were all formed in very different and sometimes haphazard ways. There's minimal organized information about the history of the expansion itself online, but you can glean the following. Roottrees candy had been distributed globally to certain markets approved by Elias as early as the 1940s. This included places like Canada, Mexico, and select countries in Europe, mostly the UK. Roottrees Everywhere involved Roottrees' expansion to other major markets that were assessed to be ready for Roottrees. They started with 4 that had no share in: Australia, Brazil, China, and France. Highlight these. Each of the 4 countries had an entirely new company formed, mostly by making deals with local distributors and manufacturers. Okay, let's search each of them. Roottrees Aus is one of the companies created to manufacture and distribute Roottrees candy. It was developed as part of the Roottrees Everywhere initiative in summer 1979. According to the website for, let me just go ahead and highlight that it was 1979. According to the history website for Roottrees Aus, Charles Martin, who owned a company that manufactured licorice in Australia, was tapped to run the Roottrees factory after he impressed the American leadership. Roottrees Aus did have some success, but only in certain regions. The manufacturing leg of the company shuttered in 1992 after the death of Martin, and the Roottrees Aus now serves as an importer and distributor. Charles Martin was a candy manufacturer in Australia born in 1923. He had a popular brand of licorice called Martin's Licorice Bullets. I'm just curious. Okay, that just comes back here. Most of his history is unrelated to the Roottrees. However, in 1979, he helped to develop Roottrees Aus. He used his own wealth to build a new factory, and they distributed the maple treats through the same methods he had already been using for his previous candy venture. A website about Australian commerce mentions that he had a very unusual business agreement with the main Roottrees company in the United States. Much like the Clansid Trust distributed the profits from the Roottrees company evenly to the Roottrees family, profits of the Roottrees Aus could be split between the American Roottrees company and Martin himself, for him to do with what he wishes. This made Martin very, very wealthy, but also led to many cost-cutting measures meant to increase profits as much as possible, especially toward the end of Martin's life in the early 1990s. Roottrees candy gained a poor reputation in Australia, and sales suffered immensely. Charles' vast fortune was passed along to his daughter, Robin Martin, who sold the company at the first opportunity. Robin Martin is featured in many of the top 100 wealthiest women in the world lists. She owns a private island off the coast of Australia where she reportedly has her own reclusive retreat. She has no husband, and there was a widely circulated rumor somewhere in the 70s that she had a medical procedure to ensure she would never have children. You find a joke on a site called Edgy Jokes that explains she's quite promiscuous and has a punchline involving Robin's eggs. For what it's worth, Martin seems to lean into the rumors. In the 80s, she once showed up at a charity function with 3 very attractive men, each wearing a shirt that said simply, "Satisfied Partner" on it. Okay, so I think this is a clue that if the rumors are true, Robin, she may have slept with Guy, but probably did not produce an heir. Okay, so let's look at China Roottrees. China Roottrees is one of the companies created to manufacture and distribute Roottrees candy. It was developed as part of the Roottrees Everywhere initiative in the summer of 1979. During the late 70s, China began to go through a period of economic reform. This led to new opportunities for American companies, and the Roottrees Candy Company decided to pounce. Lang Hongbo, who was said to personally win over the Roottrees family and was owner of multiple textile factories, did not wish to import the ingredients and build a special factory to manufacture the candy in China. So instead, they made a deal to import bulk, unpackaged Roottrees candy and label it for not only China, but additional markets. Hongbo, who was already in his mid-50s when the deal happened, only had daughters, and his brother, Long Hongyu, took control upon his death in 1986. After Hongyu died in 1992, it passed to the oldest child from the next generation, Long Xinyu. Sorry for my pronunciation. Let's look into what we can find. Come across a website for the Long Tai Textile Corporation, which is a company that helped expand Roottrees productions to China. The company seems very accomplished. Their site has quotes from many different reporters and news articles listed on it, in nearly every language. It's also mentioned quite often on websites about Chinese businesses, but those mentions are company-focused and not people-focused, and don't offer any information useful to your investigation. Their page contains a very rudimentary leadership timeline with names that prove that the company has been in the Lang family for a long time. It kind of looks like a family tree. It goes back at least 250 years in some form or another. During the period where they began the Roottrees deal, Long Hongbo in China, the family name comes first, so Long is the last name, was the CEO. He died before the internet was widespread, so there's not much out there other than his name on the website. His younger brother, Long Hongyu, is featured on the history section directly following him. This also seems to be the only mention of the man. The current CEO is a woman listed as simply Xinyu. The site doesn't list her last name, though she does appear in the family tree below Hongbo. Long Tai has a few American logos on its page. One is the Roottrees logo, another is Tranquilt, and the third is Piece of Asia. Okay, let's follow these pathways down before we move. Okay, that leads to the same article. Okay, let's try looking Long Xinyu. Okay. Long Xinyu in China, the family name comes first, so Long is her last name, is a businesswoman currently running the Long Textile Company. She was recently listed in an article on a website written by and for women. The article entitled Empowered is about the recent rise of women entrepreneurs in China. Okay, let's just highlight her name and stuff, because if they print it out, it might be important. The article states that due to her lack of brothers, she has a younger sister. Long Xinyu took over as CEO of her family's company in 1992 after her elderly uncle was deemed unfit to run the company due to mental deterioration. This was apparently an extremely controversial move among the company's employees, and some of them, the article does not state how many, quit and wrote a letter stating that she must have coerced him in his vulnerable state. Since then, the company has been performing well. Her nephew, who is currently her second in command, is expected to take over when she retires. In the meantime, the board's stance has been a twist on a popular proverb. The article roughly translates to, someone that has proven they can do something well can do it 100 times well. An unproven leader could doom us all. The article also offhandedly mentions that Xinyu was an early adopter of IVF and helped her sister have a child. There is an unsourced picture of Xinyu in the article. It says that it's from 1992 when she took over. She was 45 at the time. It has been added to your evidence. Okay, right here. Wish I could read what this says. From a recent article about the growth of female entrepreneurs in China. Okay, well, we have her picture, so she has to be important in some kind of capacity. But how and where, I don't know. Like, could be here, for all I know. But I don't know. So let's head back. Just highlight this real quick. Xinyu was an early adopter of IVF and helped her sister have a child. And that child, I'm guessing the nephew. Do we have the name of her sister? No, just that she has a younger sister. Okay. And then we also had the uncle's name. This guy. Okay, that just takes me back here. Here we go. Roottrees, France. Roottrees France is one of the companies created to manufacture and distribute Roottrees candy. It was developed as part of the Roottrees Everywhere initiative. Apparently, Roottrees France was a non-starter. Negotiations broke down pretty late in the process after the company had already been formed, and the leadership of the Roottrees went through a very large change soon after. The CEO of Roottrees France was meant to be Tristan Robert. Okay, I think that's the only important piece of information here. So, stop. I need you to search this guy. A businessman who at one time was in negotiations to take over Roottrees France. He is still alive, and you come across an interview unrelated to Roottrees from a few months ago. It seems that other countries have not been immune to Roottrees mania, as you recognize the word Roottrees in one of the questions. It seems the interviewer snuck in a question about his experience with the company at the end of the 70s. The article is in French and takes some time to translate section by section. He mentions Guy by first name only, and the tale he tells is quite ugly. The translation is as follows. Guy, the president of Roottrees, was one of the worst men I have ever met. He approached my wife about having an affair, which she refused. He then kept insisting that this was the best way to celebrate the end of our business contract. I don't think he expected her to say no, and I don't think he thought that she would tell me what happened. I punched him in the face and refused to attend another meeting with this man. They lost a lot of money on this deal because not only was he a terrible person, but he was also a terrible businessman. When he died shortly after, it felt like the universe was working things out. I wasn't surprised to learn he had a secret child. He seemed to treat women like collectible pocket monsters. Okay, so probably not one of the affair people. It seems mentioning Pokemon sidetracks the question a bit, and the interviewer never returns to the subject of Roottrees. Wait, what happens if I search Pokemon? Pokemon, or Pocket Monsters, is a video game franchise made by Nintendo that premiered in different countries over the last few years: 1997 in Japan, 98 in the United States, and more recently in other countries such as France. Besides Roottrees Mania, Pokemania has swept the globe in the last year or so. It's unclear if the franchise will have any lasting presence or if it will fade like Roottrees Mania has. It's funny. Can I find Pokemania, or does it loop back here? It loops back here. Okay. I think then that this might be her. And she is a CEO. Oh, that worked. Yes. I love locking things in so that I don't second guess myself. Okay. Sin Yu. Susan Ford. Okay, that is her. Sonia Alves. That is her. Flavio Suarez. Perfect. Okay. And this is her son, who I'm guessing also has the long name. Maybe? I don't know. That feels like it might be making assumptions. I need to go look at that article again. And he's going to inherit the company later. And we also have another picture. I'm pretty sure that's both of those are her. Okay, we're making progress. Maybe this is her because now we filled in everyone's pictures here. We don't have a picture of him. Her nephew is currently her second in command, is expected to take over when she retires. Maybe he's just a businessman? Director, but they mean in a different way. I'm going to go ahead and put CEO here. I wonder if maybe I can find anything about her in Business Watch. Okay. Searching for Long Sin Yu separately brings up much fewer results than Long Tai. Long Sin Yu was even featured in Business Watch in 1992. She missed out on Watchman of the Year, but did have a pretty sizable article that mentioned some of her history. She was born in 1947, the first of two children. Her mother was already in her 30s when she had her, and had trouble conceiving a second time until 3 years later. This was Sin Yu's sister. It became clear that her father was not going to have a son to pass the family business down to. This is how Sin Yu became involved. Her father stayed president of Long Tai for a very long time, and his daughters grew up. He began training them in the hopes that one of them could have a son who could take over. One helped him in China, and the other in the United States. Neither were given any official titles. When he died, due to societal dynamics, the business passed to his male sibling, a younger brother. Many in the know knew that this could be a problem. His brother, Sin Yu's uncle, was not a businessman and was not much younger than his brother. During this time, Sin Yu essentially ran the company as her uncle's consultant. He began to have problems related to dementia, and Sin Yu, who had already been running things behind the scenes, performed somewhat of a power play. She stopped working until the results of her absence began to cause problems. Only then did they admit they needed her. Okay, well, what if I do search Long Tai? When you sort to find the oldest articles, one of the earliest mentions from October 1979 stands out as very unusual business because it doesn't involve Long Tai's business. The article details a new, at the time, medical industry. In vitro fertilization was brand new, barely a year old, and after the first successful IVF birth in 1978, it seems the industry began to grow, and a featured article about different companies all over the world and the cost that they could charge for their services was in Business Watch. This included a few cases of high-profile customers willing to pay a premium. Apparently at the time, the CEO of Long Tai was Long Hongbo, and his younger daughter, Long Xin Yao, and her husband, who could not have children, so in an attempt to create a suitable heir, he paid I do not know how to pronounce that, to have their child implanted in his older daughter, who was unmarried. The cost for this was apparently 380,000 yuan, or just over 100,000 USD. Okay, so now we have a name of her sister. So I'm gonna try searching that next. Hopefully this will get me the son's name. Piece of Asia is the American arm of Long Tai located in Pittsburgh. According to their site, the Tai in Long Tai translates to peaceful, so they chose their name in America to match. There are a lot of companies listed here. Too many to investigate, as very few of them seem to have any relevance. It seems Piece of Asia is nearly as accomplished as Long Tai. They offer fabrics and cloths at wholesale prices. You don't spot anything out of the ordinary. The business is said to be owned by husband and wife Jerry and Linda Han. Their Chinese names are also listed, and from using an online translator, it seems that Jerry is Han Junwei and Linda is Long Xin Yao. Got it. Okay, that just links back here. What about Linda Han? And that means his last name is probably Han. Jerry, Linda, and Mark Han appeared recently on a website called Mark Han. Focus on philanthropy under the headline Hangin' with the Hans. Okay, so you are probably Mark. The Hans were chosen because they donate significantly to causes that further Chinese American culture. Jerry and Linda were both born in China and fell in love during college. Linda's father led a large company, this article never names it. After it expanded to the United States, Linda's father approved their marriage so long as Jerry took over the U.S. portion of the business. Linda jokes that the entire situation is like something out of an Alanis Morissette song, with how ironic it all ended up. I was absolutely terrified to move to the United States, but my big sister was desperately in love with the idea. She used to have this Butch Cassidy poster on her wall and was obsessed with Robert Redford. But somehow Jerry and I were the ones sent here, and now we couldn't possibly imagine going back. When we had Mark, we never even considered giving him a traditional name. Meanwhile, my sister stayed in China and has thrived there. She doesn't even like visiting the US anymore. Our kids are complete opposite, though. Mark couldn't wait to travel abroad as soon as he was old enough. He's actually in business school in China now, working with my sister. Okay, he's in business school, so he is a college student. Our niece, who grew up there, was the opposite. She couldn't wait to get here. She started calling herself Lucy Lang in high school and flew out as soon as she graduated. The name change apparently drove my sister absolutely loco. So is this actually about Mark Han, or is this about Lucy Lang? Lucy Lang is not exactly a common name, but it's not the most uncommon you've come across either. There are a few that come up with any searchable details, so it might be possible to narrow down your possibilities. A Lucy Lang is mentioned on a robotics website as part of Team Talon-Claw. Team Talon-Claw are the only two teams from the United States participating on a new robot-based show in the UK. Another Lucy Lang is part of a small women's a cappella group in Los Angeles called the Gin and Tonics. A third Lucy Lang works in New York for a business called Corporate Synergetic Solutions Unlimited. Team Talonclaw is the robotics club of Mid-Eastern University. Their robot, also named Talonclaw, has been selected for appearance on the second season of a British television show focused on robot fighting. A small blurb mentions that robot fighting leagues have existed for a few years, but there have been recent moves to televise it. Talonclaw was one of 2 teams selected from the United States. The Robotics Club has a text-only site you can find linked from the university's student section. The site seems like it's used mostly to announce the schedule to its members. The club is supposed to meet every Tuesday and Thursday, but the last 8 dates have all been cancelled because a few members of the team are currently in the UK filming. Another date from a few weeks back was cancelled for an interview with the school's newspaper. At the bottom, the traveling members of the Talonclaw crew are listed as Team Captain Jaya Patel and supporting members Lucy Lang and Kurt Hauser. Okay, so I think it's kind of clear now that this is actually Lucy, not Mark. And we just need to find her picture because she does want her nephew to inherit because it's going down the male line and because he's interested in business. But I'm guessing her daughter really isn't interested in business whatsoever. Okay, that returns nothing. What about Kurt? Spider search. Nothing. Even if I remove the period, nothing. Okay, let's try the gin and tonics. College a cappella group out of Los Angeles. Lucy Lang is listed as a soprano. There doesn't seem to be much else about her other than her name and that she performs as a soloist in a song called Like the Wind. Okay, Subways of Your Mind by FEX is an early 1980s pop song, and it was a #1 hit in many countries, though it peaked at 6 in the United States. It is still played to this day on contemporary stations around the world, and is often found on compilation discs of popular music. One reviewer at the time was quoted as saying, "Subways of Your Mind is one of those rare songs that feels like it has always existed and the artist just plucked it fully from the collective ether. It's hard to imagine a world in which this modern classic won't become a regular part of the audio landscape for the next 100 years. What a sad, empty world that would be." FEX had many follow-ups that were just as popular in European countries, though their continued success is significantly more limited in the United States. Their single, Talking Hands, only reached #2, and their third single, Modern Danger, failed to chart at all. No idea if any of this is relevant. Due to Subways on Your Mind famously starting with a catchy opening phrase, like the wind, and perhaps also due to its somewhat lengthy title, those seeking it out or requesting it often search for it like the wind. Many lyric site and music hosting sites even label it incorrectly, making this mistake even more common. When searching for combinations of like the wind and attempting to narrow it down to results that include the Roottrees, you find that an obscure Irish band called U2 once cited both FEX and Jim and Diamond as inspiration. As far as you can tell, neither FEX nor Subways has anything to do with your search, and seeing as U2 is relatively unknown to anyone outside of Dublin, this connection seems to be an odd coincidence. This is silly. I'm gonna go ahead and highlight that anyway. So, I mean, they're telling me it's not relevant, but let me search for it anyway. Okay, let's go back. The group is featured on a CD compilation called Boca. It doesn't seem relevant to your search. Best of College a cappella. It's existed since 1995. Doesn't appear very relevant to the Roottrees or anyone connected to the Roottrees. Nobody has ever done a cover of a song by Jim and Diamond, for example. Maybe someday. All right. Corporate Synergetic Solutions Unlimited is a company located in New York. Lucy Lang served as lead synergy engineer, who is listed as being ranked one of the top facilitators in the world by Business Watch magazine. As far as you can tell, CSSU is a company that other companies hire as consultants to increase productivity. It's unclear the exact services they provide. The site is light on details. There are a few high-profile companies listed on their site as former clients. You recognize their names, but none of them are related to your current investigation. Okay, so let's search. That doesn't lead anywhere. Let's search Lucy in periodicals for Business Watch. A Lucy Lang was listed in the Business Watch for her work with Corporate Synergetic Solutions Unlimited. She's in an article about consultants that corporations hire to facilitate large internal changes. Each person featured in the article has a small bio section followed by a longer section about why they were chosen. Lucy's bio mentions she grew up in a small Arkansas town, the oldest of 4 children, and she is only the second person in her family to ever have even left the state, since her great-grandparents relocated in the early 1900s. She earned her degree from the prestigious New York College, started as a junior associate synergy engineer, and in 8 short years has worked her way up to the company ladder. Now at age 32, she's the youngest lead synergy engineer in the company's history. The article calls her one of the top facilitators in the U.S. due to her work on a merger between 2 regional dial-up service providers. As a direct result of her organizational changes and policies, the new company managed to eliminate over 200 redundant positions as part of the merger, making it an instant success. Okay, so, based on this, it doesn't sound as though it's going to be her, because she's the youngest of 4 children, and she grew up in Arkansas. So I don't think that's her. I don't see why it would come up here either. I already searched Team Talon Claw, right? A notable private college that advertises itself as midway between Maine and Miami. Their mascot is the Spectres, though they are not known for their sports programs as much as their education. Their legal and language departments are their pride and joy, though they also have a fairly extensive computer science and robotics programs. Along with their prestigious schools that haven't quite reached the notoriety of Ivy League schools, some refer to it as Little Ivy. The college has embraced this, calling their newspaper the Herald, which is a combination of Hedera, the scientific name for ivy, and Herald. Their website boasts that they have a historical technology museum on campus, including a still functioning computer from the 60s that takes up a full room. They also have a printing press that they use to print one special issue of the Herald each year. Okay, so this is the lead that we needed. So let's search them up. A school newspaper, now in periodicals, and we're gonna look up, what is it? Team. I assume looking up the team is going to be better. Team Talon Claw. The Herald has a story about their school's robotics team, Team Talon Claw. It lists 3 student members and talks a bit about each of their history, including their interest in robotics. The only one that catches your attention is Lucy Lang. She grew up in China as Min Lang, but came to the United States specifically to attend university. She says she grew up around factory-scale machines that assembled products that would be shipped all over the world, and the moving parts and automation fascinated her. However, as she has progressed through her major, she has become obsessed with smaller, more powerful hydraulics, such as the mechanism that closes Talon Claw's weapon. In addition to robotics, she loves linguistics. One of her hobbies since coming to the States has been collecting accents. In her spare time, she practices not only removing any trace of her native inflection, but also quickly switching between multiple different regional accents. She feels her personal best is the Southern Belle, but her favorite is the Valley Girl due to its popular culture. Okay, so her name is Min. Aww, she's so cute. Nangmin with Talonclaw, the robot she worked with at Mid-Eastern University. You find it in the newspaper. Okay? So this is Min. And here's her picture. And with that, aside from locking that in, these aren't locked in either. I wonder if maybe they're still, mixed up or something. But that's all good. And then over here, we still have to bust through Clementine and everything related to Elias. And then figure out what this top secret envelope is. You'll have to be extra sleepy this time around to deduce the truth. Pay close attention to what you find. Be sure to look at loose ends. Okay. Anything I haven't opened or perused through? No. We don't have that many pieces of evidence left. We still have some in the company records, which I think is tied to Guy mostly. And then we have 2 in this 6 pieces book, which maybe could help us with Elias or with Miracle. The only thing I could think is, are these photos flipped? But that doesn't make sense to me because this is an inhaler and it said Heather was the one in the musical. I don't know. I'm just going to ignore those. Okay, I think I'm going to end here because this feels like a good stopping point. And when I come back, I think I'm going to revisit Clementine and look at the 6 pieces book to see if I can't find any more information about Elias and this Elizabeth Cravensworth. It looked like we had a lot of red herrings because Beth Knox and a couple other people who I thought might be here didn't end up here. We got a lot more by looking at those overseas ventures, which is interesting. Okay, until next time, bye.